Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Sheffield Selectboard to order for April 3rd, 2023. I do want to let you know that this meeting is being filmed by CTSB and can be found on their website as well as streamed. You may film this meeting if you just inform the chair first. So, starting with our first item, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the draft minutes for March 16th, 2023 and March 20th, 2023, two sets.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have an update from our police chief, Chief Munson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You have some good news for us, I understand.
Well, yeah, a couple of good things, I think. So one of the first things I'd like to do is I would like to introduce, he's not our new full-time officer because he's been working for us for a while, but our newly graduated academy full-time officer, Officer Jake Newton over here. So Jake started with us in 2021 as a part-time officer, was appointed in December of 2021 to be the next full-timer, but he wasn't able to attend the most recent academy after that due to it was full and we had to wait. So he got pushed off almost a year to last October when he started at the Western Mass Academy in Springfield, and he just graduated, a week ago? 2 weeks ago from the academy, so it's 22 weeks long. Very arduous journey to go to the academy. He was getting up about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, traveling to Springfield, not getting home till about 7, 8 o'clock at night some nights. Weekends were usually writing reports, polishing boots and gear and things like that, getting ready for it to all start again on Sunday. So we're very pleased that he's back. I don't think anyone's more pleased to be back than him, because not as of yet, I don't make him do push-ups and things like that, so I think he's probably very happy to be back and not have to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're just really pleased. He did very well, and he's going to work out really good, so we're glad to have him.
Just wonderful.
So, yeah. The second report is on the body-worn cameras. As of April 1st, which was Saturday, we are fully operational. Every department member has been trained and is utilizing the Motorola body-worn cameras that we have. For those of you that don't know, we've had cruiser cameras in our cruisers for about 7 years now, so we were a little bit ahead of the curve on this, but just recently, through the work of the selectmen, we were able to get a grant to get body-worn cameras. So now we have body-worn cameras and the cruiser cameras, so we can pretty much capture everything on video that we need for the police department. And it's been very successful for us in the past, so I think the body-worn cameras are only just going to make it better for us. So.
Any comments? Are we still the first in Berkshire County that has both the in-car cruiser
I believe we
cameras
are.
And the body-worn cameras?
I believe we are. Yeah.
Both of whom are synced together.
Yep. There's a couple other. We were the first in the county to do the cruiser cameras 7 years ago, and we're now with the body cameras. We're still the first to have both together, but there are a couple other departments that are going towards both. The Mass State Police have both body-worn and in-car camera systems. So
I want to thank the chief for his patience in this. We were one of the ones who got a body-worn camera grant, but then we couldn't get the equipment. So I think this has been, Chief, a year and a half venture?
At least, yeah.
At least. But now everything's in place, and excellent. Yeah,
we have one of my officers, Jean-Claude Clixty, he has been really an asset to the department because he's a computer engineer by trade, so getting everything hooked up and synced, which is way beyond my 53-year-old brain to be able to do, has been fantastic. He's done a really good job with that, and I think he's done a good job getting everybody trained on how to utilize them too. So it's been good. So
thank you. I know the police union was very enthusiastic about this when we started on it. In fact, they helped write a lot of the procedures. And can you just speak for a minute to the benefits you see for our citizens of having those both sets of cameras synchronized?
Sure, well, it helps them in a lot of different situations. If they're the victim of a crime, it's going to help them or help us win a conviction for them based on the camera footage. It's usually very damning. If you're the bad guy, it's really bad for you. Because most of the attorneys, when they see the body-worn camera in like an OUI or some kind of an assault or a victim's been assaulted, most juries look at that and they settle it. They don't even go to court. So it's cost-effective for the state because it reduces the amount of trial courts they have to go to, but it also increases the conviction rates for people that commit crimes. And then for us, it's a protection for us because in a lot of cases, we're in the news a lot for not some so great things sometimes. So this really protects us, and when we do a good job and we do things the right way, it's a backup for us. I know we're doing the things that we should be. The guys know what they're doing, but sometimes the public always doesn't have that confidence in us. So this really can help bolster that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any questions for the chief? Okay. Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Next we have an action on a resignation. Rhonda, please.
So we received a letter from James Rourke stating that this is 2 weeks' notice for the town of Sheffield. His last working day will be April 4th, which is tomorrow. It was a pleasure to serve the town for just under a year and a half. He's moving on to new adventures, and he thanked everyone for the opportunity.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we send James a letter of appreciation for his service to the town.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
If anyone wants to say goodbye to Jimmy, he'll be at the transfer station tomorrow, I believe. Right, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay, all right, next item. We have discussion action regarding a one-day alcohol permit for Dewey Hall. We have this paperwork in front of us.
So it appears to be a one-day alcohol permit request for several different dates. April 17th, June 23rd, October 20th, May 6th.
We'll take care of the May 6th. They had applied for one that they no longer need. There's only a certain number they can have each year, so we'll take care of our records to make sure.
Okay. So I make a motion, we go ahead and approve those requests.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is discussion, I'm sorry?
Could you quiet down back there? It's very distracting up here. Thank you.
Next item, discussion action regarding electric aggregation program renewal. So, do you want me to take this, Rhonda? Do you want to take this?
Well, I was away, so Renee sat in on the first call that happened last week, so I think she's best to give you the update on that call.
All right, so I just want to quickly go back and remind people that this is generally a 2 or 3 year program. And Rhonda, please help me with this, okay? So about 3 years ago, we had this discussion. And what happens is that all of the Berkshire County towns that belong to the National Grid Service Organization can join in as a group and choose a supplier and choose a contract term, whether that runs from 6 months to 36 months. At that time, we receive rates that are locked in for the period of that contract. The Wamiko towns in Berkshire County have the same right. And so they go together in this plan, and we as a National Grid customer go together. Now, the good news is the last time we negotiated this, our rates were basically 0.995%. And in this plan, everybody is opted in. So everybody in the town is opted in. You're in the plan. However, you can opt out at any time, And then if you find your utility rates from National Grid or whatever other supplier you're using, you can opt back in, and then you can opt out, and you can do this over and over again like an accordion for the period of the time. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is that while our rate 3 years ago was 0.995, for some people who are currently on National Grid alone, your rate for April of 22 through April of 23 has been instead 0.33881. So utility rates have gone up a lot. So when we have looked at this, and there is a group at the state level who goes ahead and pulls this all together for us, we are looking at 2 suppliers. And everybody meeting should have this. Okay, good. So supplier number 1, we're not allowed to give out the name of the supplier until we sign the contract. This is confidential information. So we have supplier number 1 and supplier number 2. I'm going to tell you that supplier number 1, this is information I received during our briefing, can get different sources for their electricity. And they will be sending out quarterly postcards to all new residents and talking about offering them the program as an opt-in. I have been told that these postcards may not have exactly the correct rate, which I don't understand once we lock a rate. So there has been some confusion with supplier 1 and their postcards. The reason I mention this is that they are slightly lower than supplier number 2, which has a constant source of supply, and that supply does not change during the length of the contract. There's 2 things that we need to decide. We need to decide our first and second choices as to supplier and as to term, because the 2 things that we have to agree with if we're going to be in this program with National Grid is we must all choose the same supplier. And the second thing we must do is all choose the same term. So within this, and it looks like a matrix like this, once we choose the supplier, column 1 or column 2, and we choose the term, we can choose any of these programs that we wish for the town. These programs vary in the rate charged based on how much renewable energy component is in, and you can go complete renewable energy on the back and you'll see the price difference, or you can go the basic mass requirement, which is the first box, which is the most affordable, okay? So we will be meeting on, I believe, the 14th of April, or maybe it's the 11th. I think it's the 11th. The 11th of April, where we will get the latest rates, and we will that day have to lock in what our rates are going to be, okay? Now again, while National Grid is projecting that their rates for May through October are going to come down a bit, they are projecting that when this contract starts, which is November 1, 23, their rates are supposed to be up in the 0.19 rather than 0.9. Those days are gone. And we can see what our rates are here. Probably the least expensive is 0.14, which is still less than what National Grid is projecting, though we do not know what they will be. A lot of this has come about, anyone can figure this out, Ukraine, Russia, on and on and on, problems, liquefied natural gas. So we are all going to see a price increase in our electricity, but we're hoping that it will be lower than what National Grid is. Again, everybody can opt out as they wish. It's very simple, and you'll get information as we get closer to that time frame on that. So the issue before us tonight is, do we want supplier number 1 or do we want supplier number 2? I will tell you that talking with about 7 towns on this meeting last week, most of our colleagues in National Grid were favoring supplier number 2 because of the postcard issue, okay, which was presented to us as a little bit of a problem. But I don't know. We have not had that issue because I don't know if we chose supplier 1 last time, because we're not using any names. Most of them were favoring the 24-month contract. That's why I'm asking you to give us 2 choices of terms. So unless you just want to say, Rhonda and Renee, do the best you can. But we have to be in agreement, okay? So, and we do not have to choose unless, we should probably choose tonight, though it's up to us, which one of these gray boxes we want.
So all of these boxes cannot be open to residents to choose their own, we as the town?
No, I vetted that.
Because that's been a little bit different in the past.
Yes, we chose, last year we chose one, or 3 years ago, we chose one that was like a 5%. We chose a little bit above the basic. I'm not sure, given the cost of electricity, that I would favor that this time around. But we have to choose one of these. So we do have choice, but it is made by this board, unfortunately.
So I just want to go back because you have regurgitated a lot of information
Okay,
here.
supplier 1, supplier 2, and the term.
Yeah, I understand that, but the reason you don't want supplier number 1, whose bid price is slightly lower, is because they're the ones sending out the postcard?
I have been told that, exactly, and that the postcard, Denise Allard, who is one of 2 people who does this, I don't know how, this would drive me nuts. She said that they have had complaints from other municipalities about these postcards coming out quarterly, not necessarily having the right rates and causing a great deal of confusion, which means everything comes back to town hall for answers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so she really stressed that. I don't think we had that experience, so I can't speak to it.
And Source 2 also had their own constant source.
They have their
of power.
own constant source, yes. Again, it's not our concern where the source comes from, but supplier number 1 does shop the market, and supplier number 2 is constant. Their suppliers do not have anything to do with our rates. We're locked in. So when everybody else has been doing 33, we've been doing 0.9. And so we have had the benefit since ever this mess started, but our lower rates are gone for at least a while.
Well, I certainly think that supplier number 2 for 24 months is a reasonable, I wish we could get longer, but there's no bid price for longer term.
Yes, there is.
But
There's a 30.
One is higher.
But you can, again,
Oh, yes, I
you
see
get the
now.
price for whatever price you choose, you get the price for the entire period of the contract.
Right.
And I think people were thinking that the 24-month was like a sweet spot.
Yeah, I kind of like the 24-month myself.
And I think this represents the supplier's risk,
Yeah,
because they've been eating the difference
Yeah.
for the last period of time and will until until November 1st.
November 1st.
So I think what Rhonda and I would like is for you to tell us the supplier and give us 2 terms, okay? Because if they've changed their mind, we can do our best to get what we want, but we all have to be in agreement. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility.
So 24 and 36 look okay to me. I mean, but what do you think, Bob?
It's fine.
Does it make sense to you, those
Yeah.
2 terms? So I would recommend that that's what you go for, but obviously if you find a really great deal that's better than this when you're there, then do it.
Okay, so let us just keep that motion open for just a moment. So supplier number 2 for 2436. Now, okay, let's just finish that motion. Bob, do you second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Now, which one of these gray boxes do you want to choose from? And you can very quickly see that we start on page 1 with the least expensive, and we go to page 2, which is like 100% mass class 1 Rex, and you can see that there's a significant difference.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So you have to choose one of these. This is the most economical. And then they go up based off of,
How many renewables, what percentage of renewables is included?
Okay, but is this supplier number 1?
Supplier number 1 is over there, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And we were leaning towards supplier number 2.
Their supplier number 2 is the second column.
See, I couldn't
Yes.
read that in the dark box.
Yes.
Okay. So
Sorry.
we're on the rightmost column.
Yep.
Supplier number 1 is out of the picture. We're only looking at 24, 36 months. So I need to have you,
So what is the percentages, what is the VREC? Because we're going,
you have great faith in me. I cannot answer that, okay? It has codes, they're codes for how much of, so the first one meets the mass requirement. Okay, I have no idea what it is that meets the mass requirement.
Right.
But that's the minimum. The second one is purchased through National Wind Recs, and it meets the requirement, mass requirement.
41%.
Plus, I can't tell you what 41% is.
and
okay?
then you have the 59% plus 41%
Yes,
VREC.
yes, yes. The only thing that I noticed is that there's the minimum, and it goes up by what green energy, what different sources of renewable energy are purchased by this supplier to meet this mix. It's like a gas blend, okay? In this case, it's an electrical blend, and that the rates go up by what mix you choose. And they range, you know, you can see from the front to the back that, you know, there's a considerable difference.
Yeah, I mean, supplier number 2, to me, appears to be the best price, though it's not the lowest, but it seems to be the most consistent.
Okay, and that has a row number 2, bracket number 2. The supply is through National Wind Recs, so renewable energy recs, meeting the Massachusetts requirement plus 41%. And I'm sorry, I do not understand all of this.
Yeah.
I don't,
I understand.
I'm
I don't
not
think we
holding
have
it
to.
against you.
understand the
I don't think
intent
we
of
have
it.
to.
Yes, so I do need some guidance for us. Rhonda, please, go ahead.
so you're doing this to try and help your residents be able to afford electricity. So it would be my recommendation that you choose the top one, the standard retail. If people are interested in a more renewable or a greener energy, there are options out there that they can
There's a ton of
choose.
suppliers out there. This just locks in the price for the period of time that we go with. You know, everybody's free to choose whatever supplier they want. And as we know, once this gets closer to November, everybody's going to be bombarded by energy suppliers trying to influence them. So,
I go with Rhonda's.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Rhonda's
requirement,
recommendation
so, yeah.
as well, now that I'm looking at what the
it meets the mass
electric supply
requirements.
is. I
Yes.
was a little lost in the language. It's not your fault.
This is
It's-
why it took an hour
Yeah,
and a
it's
half on the
nobody's
conference
fault.
call.
It's just, it's language
little
I'm not
confusing.
familiar with.
Okay, so we have voted to do supplier number 2, either a 24 or 36 month term.
Yep.
And are we saying that we are in the top box?
Yeah.
Right, standard
Standard.
retail electric.
Okay, and we will, this one, we'll just wait and see what the group goes with, and we'll pick, if they say 24 months, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
And if they say 36 months and we can't do something else with them, we will go with that.
That's-
All right, are we good?
Yep, I trust you both to do what's right for the
Thank you.
community.
Well, that's a heavy load.
Well, I mean,
We do the best we can.
Sometimes it's a moving target.
that's all we can
Yes,
do.
okay. So, where are we now? We are, just a minute, let me catch up.
Number 6.
We have a USDA grant application approval and letter of support. All right, so what we're up to now is we are seeking a USDA Rural Communities Non-Construction Grant for fire hose and everything that gets attached to that hose, nozzles, hand grips. I always learn more about the fire department with these grants. Unfortunately, Tricia Anderson, who's been our wonderful contact to work with for 4 years, has been promoted, as she well deserved.
Congratulations to her.
Yes, she well deserved it, but we'll now be working with a new person. Tricia and this board have worked on 2 police cruisers, 1 EMS rescue vehicle, 1 senior center van. So it's been a very productive relationship. What this seeks is the board to support this grant, and I don't have all the information I need yet from the fire department, so you'll see blanks, okay? But this would be a request to the USDA for $107,000, of which our share would be 25%, which turns out to be $26,957. And if this is granted, their share would be 75%, which would be $80,870. Kind of written this letter the best I can without the information I need from the fire department. So I would ask you if you wish to do this. I'm behind in submitting this grant, so I'm kind of pushing, trying to get all the paperwork in place, pending that information. I would request that you consider approving this letter with the final edits to be done by Rhonda once this is in place. At the same time, we also have to do a letter of certification that we have the 25% available and that we're willing to commit it. So that's the second letter. And also, I would like you to, though we have this as a board policy, once again authorize our town administrator to sign all documents. I'm going to try and get this in before our next meeting, if you're comfortable with it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the draft, the letter of certification, and allow Rhonda to sign.
And fix everything
and
up.
fix everything up. There you go.
How's that?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I may call on you, Bob, to see if I can get some help on getting that information.
I will get on it ASAP.
He'll light a fire under somebody, I'm sure.
Well, everybody I know is extremely busy. All right, next we have discussion regarding request for ice skating rink at Town Park. Rhonda, I'm
I
gonna...
think you skipped number
Did I
7.
skip?
That's
I
okay.
always skip somebody.
That's okay.
Okay, personal emails, discussion and possible action regarding policy for personal emails for town business. Rhonda.
So the board should probably start thinking about not having personal emails signed on for like a permitting software, or to have a personal email that's the only access that a board has. It's created some problems in the past where once that person leaves, it's difficult for us to go in to make any changes, or even in one case, there was Adobe was going to charge somebody and they wanted our help to stop the charges from Adobe, which we can't do because it's connected with a personal email. And then maybe like on, for instance, Permit Eyes. And then that person moves on from the board, and then we're scrambling trying to get access to the correct new person, where if it was a town email, it would be much easier to control because the next person could just step in seamlessly.
So it sounds to me like every board should have an email address, such as planningboard@sheffieldmass.gov, Conservation Commission.
Or use the email that's set up for the assistant, the administrator of the boards. I'm not quite sure exactly whether we should do another email separate for the boards. That certainly is up for discussion, but at least if we could start with not using personal emails to do things like this, it would be a start.
The other problem is we have no record of those emails, and under the open meeting law, as we all know too well, emails are supposed to be kept for 7 years.
Yep.
And we've had issues, and one of these days, we're really going to face an issue.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how many people know when they're using their own personal email and representing a board that they have to save that email for 7 years.
Yeah.
So it's, it's onerous both for the person who's doing that as well as puts the town in exposure as well as themselves later on. I mean, we've had a number of situations. So let me ask Rhonda, not that I love having more email addresses, but I'm still saving emails for 7 years under my AOL address. Okay, and I've got about 4 more years to do it, but I have to save all that stuff. Now I have a town email address which resides here on the server. It's a little bit of a pain because now I have 3 email addresses when I only want 1, but all the emails go here to the server. So I just keep what I want for my own records because it's all here. Do we have enough email addresses to potentially, I kind of like this idea that Nadine had about for some boards where there's a lot of stuff having an email address that is strictly for that board. I'm concerned about them sharing the town hall email address with Josh. How do they pick out what's theirs? How do we keep them from potentially, I'm going to tell you on this Outlook system, I do delete emails without my even being aware of it until I've done it. Okay, I don't find it easy to use, but at least it would keep the town board administrator's email address only for that person. I'm wondering if that might be a solution. And we don't have to come up with it tonight,
Right.
but I think we'd like to have this in place by the start of our next fiscal year.
Well, why don't we at least make a plan tonight that nobody uses personal emails for the direct contact to the boards? That we either have board administrator or a town administrator, who can, or Jill.
No.
Just kidding.
No.
I was just kidding.
You better be.
Just no longer using personal emails.
So that's a start, and I think we have to build upon that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we need to, as Renee said, come up with absolutely every detail of this policy, but the approval to at least get started
Yeah.
and have the board on the same page.
We can't cut a person off from their personal email address now without giving them a substitute email. Otherwise, they could not communicate.
Yeah, no, we definitely want, but, we definitely want every board member to be able to work, but it should be through the town email.
Yeah, so we have to find out from John Shannon how many email addresses there are available. I know at one time before we went to Outlook, there was an issue.
We can have as many as we want. It's just
Good.
how much do we want to spend?
Yeah.
There's a cost per.
So we should probably evaluate what we think is
Okay.
reasonable and
Okay.
come up with a plan.
It might also be interesting, just as we go forward, again, if we try to have this in place for July 1, I think that's reasonable. But it would also be interesting to see how many people on a given board actually use their email address for official business.
Guilty as charged.
Okay, so I would recommend that we pick this up at the first meeting after town meeting, okay, and just we have a little bit of time, we've got June, maybe we could just have the initial cost on the email addresses. I mean, we can't tell somebody not to use their email address without giving them an email address somehow. Okay. Is there any comment from the public on that? I see a couple of people who are here. I'm looking particularly at Sari. No, so maybe we'll talk about this because I know you do use your email address for town business. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I like the idea of having.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Now we're at the ice rink. So discussion, just discussion regarding an ice skating rink at Town Park. Rhonda, please.
So we've received a request from the National Honor Society students at Mount Everett. And they came up with a project that involves creating an ice rink at the Sheffield Town Park. It would be their group community service project and perhaps lend itself to be a fundraiser. The idea is that they would buy lumber, tarps to create the rink under the pavilion, and then possibly sell cookies and hot chocolate on weekends. They've seen similar things in other towns they've visited. They've also applied for an Eagle Fund grant, and this would help pay for some of the items that they need. So they're looking for direction. And so it would start here with the Board of Selectmen on whether you would like to pursue this idea and have the students maybe come in and talk to you and tell you a little more about it. Or if you decide that it's not something that the town should consider at this point.
Well, it sure sounds like a lot of fun, but I'm really worried about insurance liability. So I think
That
that,
would be the first thing we would have to
You
look
guys are
into.
becoming as bad as I am.
you've trained us well, Renee.
On the surface, it sounds like a great idea. But of course, liabilities can be a huge issue. I believe it's worth looking into. I'd love to hear from them more. I think it's very possible as long as our insurance company would back it and legal would back it.
So that falls to you to do a little investigation on that.
I think Monterey floods there.
But that's their firehouse's pavilion.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not town, it's the
Well,
firehouse.
somebody's paying for it. The town doesn't, I know that.
I don't know the details of
We
it.
need to investigate this.
Yeah.
I think it would be just absolutely delightful, to be honest. I think it would provide a wonderful opportunity. My concern is that that pavilion, I know when it is used for town park, the town fair, excuse me, we have to rope off every entrance except the ones that are paved to get into, that are asphalted, because people are constantly tripping over that little lip, which right now is probably about that high. So if this were to be flooded for an ice rink, there's going to have to be a lip that's going to hold the water. I doubt that it freezes that fast anymore.
No,
Well, that's what
they
the
would
lumber's
use the
for.
lumber,
Yes,
the
but-
boards and the
but-
tarps to catch the
Yes,
water.
where I'm going is that would have to be high enough so that people would visibly see it, because I have seen, I'm not going to pick on the seniors, but I have seen people trip so many times at the town fair going in until we started using the yellow police tape. So the height of that board, the color of that board, it would have to be taken out. I mean, we do have those asphalt rises that come into the park, I think, on 2 areas at least. So we'd have to work around that.
Well, I don't think
issue.
we have to build it tonight.
No, but it is my concern. So do we have any other concerns so that we can kind of, we have time on this one before the next freeze? Okay.
Hopefully.
So
I hope so,
we'll
yes.
investigate that, and we'll give them a yellow light to come in and give us more information and meet with us. I think this is very creative on their part. Any other on this? We're good?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. The next one is the ARPA funds update. Rhonda?
So the town received $934,016 in ARPA funds. And so we do have those funds. The board has discussed ARPA and commitment and/or expenditures of ARPA at several different meetings. So today, they have spent or committed $230,773. So those categories are, they've committed $60,000 towards a new ambulance for the Southern Berkshire Ambulance Squad. They have spent $2,200 on a broadband survey. They've committed $20,000, and that may fluctuate a little depending on where we end up at the end of the year, for staffing and training employees. There was the last police cruiser purchased. There was the town's share from the USDA, the 25%, which was $18,573. So ARPA funds were used to pay that. There was a request from the school district planning committee, the regional school district planning committee, for $15,000. I don't think that was a commitment, it wasn't an expenditure. I don't think they're gonna need that, but the commitment is still there. The board has just talked with the police chief about purchasing a new cruiser, and they've committed $75,000 towards the purchase of that cruiser. And then they've discussed the possibility of offering grants to nonprofit organizations, and so they have committed $40,000 towards that.
I'm trying to think if we have anything else on the horizon that we have discussed, and thank you very much for this update, Rhonda. There will be copies of it available, and probably will consider putting this out at town meeting. There's been a lot of discussion on this. Have we talked about committing anything else at this moment?
I don't believe so.
I don't recall anything either.
Okay, all right. So let's spend just a moment.
We have.
Yes, I do believe that, may I speak?
You need to come up here, Sarah, please. Introduce yourself if you would, please.
Sarah Hoy, 60 Main. I do believe that at a past meeting, you did actually consider putting money aside for housing.
We had, if my memory serves me right, we had 2 meetings where we got public input, and probably the number one suggestion on how to use that money was for affordable housing.
Yeah.
But to date, there has been no commitment
Okay.
On that. And we
Okay.
still have $703,000.
Yep.
But there's been discussion, but there's been no commitment. So these
And
are...
it's still on the radar.
Right, so well, actually, so because I do think at the meeting where Dewey Hall came and specifically asked for you to consider them and other not-for-profit organisations, I think you actually did discuss it. You didn't bring up a number, but my question, and this is what I've been wondering as a housing committee member, is should the housing committee be requesting a specific number from you, or is it really the select board's responsibility to put a number on it?
Yeah, it's kind of our responsibility to figure out how much of this, is going to be used for other things and what portion should be sort of targeted for that.
Okay.
So, Sarah, if I could comment on that, on housing, as you know, because you've been in this, we do have the housing production plan, and Nadine was the chair of that. It's been approved. We do have CJ Haas working with the housing committee to try and address the 3 or 4 main things that were there in the housing production. All right. I think I always remind people we have until 24 to commit this money, and we have until 26 to spend this money. I think, at least on this board, I am looking for more work from the Housing Commission with a plan. This is our partner. This is what we're thinking about. This is an approach, all right? In my mind, I have a portion of the remaining funds in my mind for affordable housing. I can't tell you how much, and this board has to agree as a total, but I think we heard very loud and clear the community's continued mention of that, but there's no reason to put money aside when we don't know what that money should be or how it would be used. And I know you and the planning board are working on a variety of various zoning bylaws, so I think the town is on a good path, but we need more.
Okay. So
No fault of your own.
No,
none at all.
I'm
Thank
not
you for
taking it that
doing
way at all. But I having just completed 2 one-day workshop conferences in Worcester, 2 Saturdays in a row. The one thing that I came out with is that for a small community like us to actually be able to act on anything in a decent time frame when something comes up and is available or just lands in your lap or whatever it might be, there literally has to be funds put aside. because how are we ever going to get the funds in time to purchase or do anything or commit to anything? And so that's the number one thing. So it's just a matter of working out what that number is. And we are meeting with CJ on the planning board with CJ on the 12th. And it's in my mind that I would ask the housing committee to do a joint meeting at that point to discuss. Anybody got any thoughts on
I
that?
say if you come up with a plan and you got a number, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay.
You know,
That's what I think
Yeah,
too, but I want to be sure that
You know, I mean-
it's good we're on the same page.
yeah, you know, the housing committee comes together with a thought or, you know, and present something to the board. We then have something to actually discuss. That's what Renee is saying is, you know, specific information helps us know. And you might come up with something and say, you know, we did a survey that says,
Don't do any
You
more
know.
surveys. Carl. We've done so many more surveys.
I think that we're going to start talking with CJ, the planning board.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And I think there's time for us to get a number and come to you, so yeah.
I would caution about giving a number.
Okay.
Because what I'm going to look
Isn't that
for...
what you just said?
No, just a minute, Nadine. I want a number that has something behind it.
Sure.
Okay? I just don't want, we need $350,000. For what? Because that's going to be my first question.
Yeah.
For what?
And if I
mean,
think
you
that
are
if we
very-
came with that, we would
Yeah.
have an idea why we're asking for it.
Yes, exactly. We think a good approach, we've partnered with Construct, because that's one of the items. We've adjusted the planning board zoning bylaws, that's a second item. And we're looking at doing this as our first step. You don't have to come with this master plan of housing for 10 years. So I think Nadine and I are on the same thing, but we have saved 700, this board has been criticized openly in front of our town state representative for being too cautious in allocating our money. And we will continue to be judicious and cautious, I hope, in allocating our funds, because when this is gone, it's gone.
Well, and I
So
think
we've
that-
heard for housing, it's.
I think
right
the
there.
thing you should know is, and not you specifically, the community as a whole.
Yes.
That 700,000 can go like that
Yes.
on roads, like immediately. And then we don't have it. When a year down the road, you guys have a plan
Yeah.
that requires $150,000 and we no longer have that money. Then we have to go to the citizens to ask to raise and appropriate the money. So that's why we're being conservative.
No, I appreciate that, and I get concerned about because everything moves so slowly. I mean, for a small town like us, even having the right housing committees and boards and everything, that's one of the things I wanted to ask. With if we ask for a specific amount of money for housing, affordable housing, does it then just get, do you have an account that you put it into, or you're saying it's committed, so you just hold it? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we just hold it.
Yeah.
We have to spend it by 2026.
Oh, I'm sure
No,
we
have to
can.
allocate by 24, spend by 26.
That's what I just said.
I'm sorry, that's what you said, spend.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, all right. So on the grants, because I see that probably everybody on the board from Dewey Hall is here tonight, thank you so much. We have talked about following and looking at the Great Barrington model, which we looked at a while ago, and we need to go back into that and look. We did set aside $40,000 to see if we can fund nonprofit. What the Great Barrington model has been is food insecurity. It has been medical insecurity through something like, through VIM. I'm going to I know that the Dewey Hall and a number of the other organizations have asked for operating expenses. It has not included operating expenses. Getting into that, they have awarded theirs. We're going to have to go back through, after town meeting, that grant process. It was onerous. I don't want to do that to anybody, but we do need to get on that so that those people who would be eligible can decide if they want to submit an application. Anybody want to say anything else on the grant allocation here? Is there anyone from Dewey Hall? Ken, please introduce yourself. need to introduce yourself, Ken.
Sorry. My name is Ken Terry, and I'm a member of the board of Dewey Hall. So, yeah, we've listened to this discussion about the ARPA funds with great interest, and we commend the Select Board for allocating $40,000 to Sheffield nonprofit organizations. And we look forward to applying for a grant through whatever process you have. And, you know, you can regard the money in however you want to, but as I will discuss, we need some money. You know, a more generous allotment to nonprofits would also boost the economy, life, and the culture of Sheffield, and we hope you will reconsider your budget for the nonprofit sector. Now, I've been on the Dewey Hall Board of Directors for more than 10 years, and during that entire time, we've had to struggle to generate enough revenue to cover our expenses. In the wake of the pandemic, our fight has become much harder, because the financial cushion we had at the start of the crisis is almost gone. Despite generous contributions from the community and a one-time private grant, the closure of the hall in 2020 and 2021 put us in a deep financial hole that we're still trying to dig out of. We're doing everything we can to close that gap. By investing in hiring staff, we've significantly increased our rentals, and our annual appeal, other fundraising events, and sponsorships have raised record amounts of money. Our schedule of events has more than doubled, including concerts, lectures, arts events, dances, rehearsals, private parties, and winter markets. But this increased activity has also increased our costs. In addition, we have to make ongoing repairs on the hall. We're having our floors refinished this summer, which is essential to have any kind of events there. Our windows need repairs, and a new roof will be required within the next couple of years. We're working on historical preservation grants, but that will take time, and we'll have to match any grant money we get with donations. So the challenge we face is illustrated by the events taking place at the hall this week. On Thursday, we hosted a square dance that generated a modest rental fee. On Friday, we held a rent-free lecture by the conservationist Nancy Smith, one of several events associated with the Smithsonian exhibition. And on Wednesday night, we're going to hold a monthly Dewey Drop-In event called Use Your Words that features the work of local writers and poets. We stimulate the local arts and music scene through events like these, and we provide an affordable place for area residents to mingle every week. But this activity doesn't necessarily bring in revenue. Meanwhile, it still costs over $300 a day to operate the hall on a year-round basis. All this is to say that Dewey Hall has unique needs among the nonprofits in Sheffield. We also bring a unique value to the community. As we said in our letter to the Select Board last December, the hall is crucial to Sheffield's cultural life and also contributes to our economy and community development. People who come to our events stay in local inns and B&Bs, they hike the local trails, they eat in local restaurants, and they shop in local stores. Our state legislators have said that some of the ARPA funds should go to support nonprofit groups affected by the pandemic, recognizing the vital role that arts, culture, and community play in the Berkshire economy. The Select Board has recognized this need in your allocation of $40,000 to nonprofits. In light of the historical and cultural importance of Dewey Hall and the challenge of maintaining this wonderful institution, we plan to apply for an ARPA grant of $25,000, which will offset our pandemic losses. Additional funds over $25,000 could help ensure that Dewey Hall will be here for current and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ken?
No.
Priscilla?
Could I speak?
Sure. Priscilla Cote. I just want to support all that Ken. I've been on the board, and I'll have to say for 50 plus years, which goes back a long time. And I just want to remind that this is a historic building. It's over 130 years old. It's part of Sheffield history.
We've worked very hard to maintain it, be a part of the town, and want it to be a part of the town. But it is a super important piece of the town. And to let it fall apart, become run down, be unavailable for the community use that we've built very strongly with our board and with the management to do it and be supportive, we do need that extra support to keep us going. And I just really want to remind all of you that this is a magnificent historic building. I'm sure you've all been inside and you all know what it is and how beautiful it is. We need to maintain it and keep it that way. Thank you.
All right, so we have some work to do after town meeting, as always. Let's go on to our next item, which is the announcement of the budget question and answer session. Rhonda?
So we will hold a question and answer session regarding the proposed FY24 budget on April 18th at 6 o'clock. This is the time where anyone that has any questions on the budget and or the warrant for town meeting can come and have their questions answered, so they will be more informed when they attend town meeting.
Rhonda, when are you planning to post the budget to the website?
When it's approved by finance.
So finance meets tomorrow, maybe
They
it'll
finish
be...
it.
Okay, so maybe that will be up this week. The warrant, we're not reviewing until when?
The 11th, I believe.
The 11th, so that'll be a little bit later, but that also will be posted. Okay, great. Board member items. Bob?
I'm good.
Nadine?
I have nothing, thank you.
I just have one that I wanted to wish everyone a very happy and joyous Passover and Easter. And I can't believe it's spring finally. I very much welcome it. Town administrator items, Rhonda? None. Public comment? Anyone? If you do, please move to, and just announce yourself and your address. You're limited to 3 minutes, please.
Yes, I hadn't thought about this until I heard you bring this up, and I wanted to make a comment. Oh, my name is Dana Cummings from Belvoir Road, and about the ice skating rink, which I think is a great idea for the park, just not under the pavilion, or I didn't hear a time period listed about how long the ice rink would be in operation. It's one of the few public spaces that's here covered away from the elements. I use it all year long, and there's a lot of families. It's a place to get out of the house, and I consider it a public resource. And would like to hear how long the ice rink might be utilizing the under the park. There's always families there, kids with tricycles. Also now a place where people with mobility issues is covered and flat. So I would just like to like to hear more about the proposal and how long the pavilion would be out of use for that.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Phyllis Webb from Root Lane. Just to bring my own personal to all of you, to thank you for allocating some funds, the ARPA funds, and just let you know that I think it's important to bring to you all the wonderful things that are happening in our town. I'm not sure that you get out to what we're doing, all of the activities. Our town is so different. When you go almost anywhere in the Berkshires to go to a gala or to an event, in large part it's unaffordable to our local people. But here in our town, whether it's Dewey Hall or the Historical Society, the library, any number of things, it's open and accessible to everybody. And I'm very proud of that. And I hope that we can appeal to you to maybe give a chance to come out a little bit more and see the amazing, enriching programs that are going on, and people are working hard for our community, to bring our community together. And I think that if there was a way to allot a little bit more money, ARPA money, it would be well used for the growth of our community, our young people, all the way up to our seniors. And I just appeal to you to reconsider a little bit more. Thank you.
Anyone else? And I would ask for motion for adjournment.
So moved. Oh, I'll
All
second
right.
that.
There'll be a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. Thank you, CTSB.